Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the Regional EMS Council to order. The sign-in sheet's coming around, and please sign in. If you're an alternate delegate, please also sign in, even if your name is not on the list. The apologies of the chair tonight. Steve could not make it, so I'll be chairing in his and Kevin's absence. So we have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Motion's made. Second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion or corrections to the minutes? All right, then all in favor of approving the minutes of the April meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, next up, Rich has got the treasurer's report. And Tim, is the treasurer's report circulating with the papers? Or?
No.
Okay. Well.
Finance report? Well, the finance report is, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Okay. I think it's circulating.
Yes.
It's there.
I'll be really brief this month. There's not much to report. We're in very good shape still. Assets of nearly $500,000. Liabilities of less than $7,000. And there are no bills to bring to you for either payment or approval. The executive committee will be scheming in between now and June to find creative ways to spend money and we'll report back then.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? Move someone motion to accept the treasurer's report. Second. All right, second. And all in favor? Okay. On to correspondence. We have a letter from the New York State Department of Health about the EMT, Mr. Raymond Abbott in Mexico, New York, for violations of Part 800 and several violations of Part 800. Mr. Abbott's EMTP has been suspended, as well as EMTD, as is notified in writing on the agenda document. Okay. We have a letter from the Cambridge Valley Rescue Squad thanking the Regional EMS Council, although they were disappointed in the outcome of their recent CON discussion. They would like to thank the staff of the council and the members of the council for their work on this application for expansion. And this is from Mark Spezio, the EMS manager of Cambridge Valley Rescue Squad. We have a letter from the Adirondack Appalachian Regional EMS Council. We'll talk about this later under group purchasing, but they have sent a letter asking if their 6-county region could join us in the group purchasing organization in working with the Premier Mohawk Hospital suppliers. Also, we have 7 members that are excused tonight: Judith Chubb, PJ Keeler, Jim Reagan, Evan Eisenhandler, Lynn Kane, and Dale Lingfelder. And has the sheet gone?
And Steve.
And Steve Rinaldi. I didn't say Steve? Yes. Has the signing sheet made all the way around yet? When it gets around, Tim, can you just verify the quorum for tonight so when we get to anything that has a vote, we have a...
It's not looking so good. Maybe on the home run.
Well, let's see what we got. So, okay. We've got 2 course applications that have to be read into the record, and 2 renewal sponsorship applications for training to be read into the record and approved. The first one is for the Town of Colony Emergency Medical Services. This approval is recommended without reservation by the chairperson. The second is with the Momentum Performance Materials, and again, the approval of this is recommended without reservation by the chairperson. So if we can have a motion for the approval of those 2. Motion made. Second. Second. All in favor? Oh, well, first, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Assuming we have a quorum, that was just a vote, but we'll have to, once Tim gets a look at the list.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Don't we have a lot of these coming up in the very near future for the applications to be done? Traditionally, we have a lot.
Last summer, we were trying to jam this up.
Could we just allow the executive staff here to approve or not approve if we're on hiatus so it doesn't hold things up? You know, like for June, July, and August. You know, voting on it doesn't take much, but if we're holding up the course sponsors that need approval, it's really going to jam them up.
I'm okay.
That's traditional with the other councils in favor of it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll second Jeff's motion, if that was the motion.
Jeff, can you just state the motion?
I'd like to make sure that the executive staff at Remo review the incoming applications while we're on vacation and go ahead and forward them if they're acceptable with our approval, and then we can review them if we need to, if somebody feels it's necessary in September, but I don't think that's necessary.
All right, sounds like we have a motion.
Can I make a friendly amendment to it? That if there's a question on any of the applications, a decision be made by the executive director and conversation with the executive board.
There you go. You okay with that friendly amendment?
16.
16, we're in business. Okay. So we have a motion amended that the executive board would be consulted if there was any need for discussion. Any discussion of the motion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in business over the summer. Okay, reports of the committees. The executive committee, everything we discussed at the executive committee will be discussed in other reports down here tonight. CON committee, Evan's not here, but Jim, you're here, right? Is there anything? Nothing. No report from CON committee. The MAC and medical directors and academic report, well, Dr. Daly for the triple.
Basically, the triple is very brief. The brief report is that we've started working on the protocol educational components. We've got a lot of participation. We'd like more developing test questions. Rich, Deb Cuffs, Rich Beebe, and Howard are working. What? Oh, and Jeff are all working. Yes.
There's
working with a large
7
team
or 8 people.
to develop the testing process. I've been working with some of the folks in the other regions developing the educational components. And I think everything looks like it's moving forward nicely. The other regions are very serious about wanting to make sure that they're going live this summer. Our region has been a little bit more conservative than that. And we'll see how the whole process moves forward. We will likely not have protocol books by this summer, short of an act of God that I can see at this point. And therefore, I'm not quite sure how we can go forward with protocols without having books in hand. So the process of obtaining money to publish books is still on. So anybody wants to write test questions, send Tim an email forward with the appropriate direction.
That's it?
Would you like more?
Thank you, Dr. Dale, for the reports of the committees. Executive Director's Report, Tim.
Everybody should have a copy. A couple keynotes. As you know, we've been looking to possibly relocate Remo. Over the past month or so, we've looked at a ton of properties. We've narrowed it down to 3 that you see there. The realtor has requested RFPs from those properties. We'll see what happens when they come back. Also reviewed or examined 2 additional properties this past Friday. One of those was also favorable as well, so we'll be inquiring on that. Other items of note, EMS awards. The awards committee did send me their selections or nominations today. However, they didn't quite reach a consensus, so I'm going to have to go back and work with them over the next day or 2, so we can get those to DOH by the timeline of June 1st. Those are the big highlights. If anybody has any questions, otherwise that concludes my report.
On the report on the relocation, a number of things have happened in the last couple of months that really necessitate our being serious about relocating from this facility. The first one, a number of months ago, the number of hours that we were allowed to access the building were decreased. The staff the building's now locked up on weekends and the staff does not have access. The second thing that's happened recently is that when trying to sign up for training space, the landlord has told the staff of Remo that we are taking up too much of the common meeting space for our education, and it's crowding out other groups that want to use that space. So we need to start curtailing our educational programming. Given that's the position of the landlord, this really is not a viable long-term alternative for Remo, since the council's real desire and the executive director's desire is to increase the amount of training that we do into a lot of different areas. So the look for space is real. The chair and Tim have retained a commercial real estate broker who is now been showing Tim a lot of the properties that Tim mentioned, you know, with some guidelines such as, you know, adequate parking, adequate classroom space, being accessible on an artery to all areas, to all major roadways. We're certainly not looking for Class A office space, but we're looking probably for office space that's in a little better shape than what we have now. We're also probably looking at a long-term increase in rent. The square footage costs that we're seeing are going to result in is between a 50 and 100% increase probably in the rent we pay. And there may also be some fit-up costs to that space. It's a very good real estate market, and some of the properties Tim's been looking at, the people trying to rent that market will do a lot. They may be willing to do a lot of the fit-up for us. But I do fully expect that Tim will bring a leasing proposal before the executive committee and then the council in the next couple of months that results in a substantial increase in rent and a substantial one-time cost of converting the property, moving to that property. And so that will come out of our asset base. But I think that the future is not very good for us in this building. So I don't know if anyone has any questions they want to ask Tim about this, or just any comments they want to make about this. Certainly any input from the council is welcome while Tim continues the search.
When you say significant increase, what are we talking about?
Well, I think we're looking at about 3,000 square feet at about $8 a square foot. That's about $2,400 a month, right, Tim? Roughly?
Give or take. We roughly pay Jeff now, I think it's about $21,000 a year.
Okay, talk apples and apples. So that 21,000 a year breaks down into...
Well, if you say you take a price of $8 a square foot and you time that times 3,000. I've asked the realtor to find spaces that have approximately 3,000 square foot. Basically, a large configurable open area like this with some peripheral office space for the staff. So, just as an example, if we find a property with 3,000 square foot, it's $8. That's about $24,000 a year. We're currently paying, I think, approximately $21,000. That's on the low range right now. $8, $7 and change, $8 is on the low range of what we're finding out there. It ranges up to $16, $17, $18, which I know is out of our realm or out of our pocketbook. So if we're fortunate enough to find a space that works for us for about 3,000, 3,500 square feet, $7, $8, $9, you'd have to do the math, but it's going to be an increase. You know, it's not going to double, I don't think, what we pay, but I would be fairly confident to state that it's going to be more than what we currently pay. Obviously, my objective is to keep that as low as I can and find a space that works for us and serves the needs of the organization. So the realtor has a great idea now because I've worked with him and spent probably the better part of 3 days, whole days with him. He knows what we're looking for, he knows what he needs, he knows what we can afford. So, and that's how he's proceeding with this.
And you're saying what you're looking at is 3,000 square foot or more for $8 a square foot annually?
I'm looking for the lowest price I can get for a space that works for us.
Okay, but I'm trying to just get a handle on what dollars we're talking about.
It's hard to put a number, Jeff. I have to wait for the RFPs to come back, but just to use that typical example, if he finds a space that's 3,000 square foot, they want $8 a square foot, that would be $24,000 annually. 24,000, yes. We'll see. There's a lot of caveats there. We need a central location. We need something close to the main highways. I don't want it in the far reaches. Any far reach of the region has to be fairly centrally located to this area, Upper Albany, the end of the Northway, somewhere in here, and that's what we're trying to do. There's a lot of property out there. We just have to find the right space.
To give you just a quick math example, if we were to get 3,000 square feet at 8,000 square feet, 24,000 a year, that would be an increase in rent of about 13%.
It's about $250 a month increase, that's.
So, but, you know, we could see, you know, going up higher than that. I mean, if we end up at 3,200 square feet at $9, you know, that the math changes, so. All right, well, Tim, thanks for any questions for the executive director and his report. Next up is the EMS council. Rich is getting ready for 2 long days.
Meets tomorrow and the day after, yes, as does this evening.
Nurses committee.
We did not meet in May because of EMS week, so we rescheduled it for June 2nd.
All right. And there's been no reply to the letter to St. Peter's Hospital about the ALS, about the billing information yet.
There actually was a request for a letter to be resent to St. Peter's Hospital that I'll work with you offline.
Okay, cool. All right. MCI committee, I think PJ is not here, Jim.
Yeah, I can report. I mean, obviously we're working, you know, behind the scenes and interacting with different counties. So far, I think it's been nothing but positive. You know, it would be our goal, I think, to have this in place by summer. I think that is, you know, a very lofty goal. I'm not sure that it'll happen by that. We're obviously captive to the meeting schedules in the other counties, and they have to, you know, put forth the information and have it ratified. But again, nothing has come up that will derail it, so it continues to move forward.
Is there anything that the council can do to assist the MCI committee in making sure we have something in place by summer or by the end during the summer?
No, I think it's, again, I think it's all, it's dependent on each individual county to ratify and put forth the information that will come together as one document.
We talked about this a little upstairs, especially in light of the second major tragedy caused by a natural disaster in less than a month. You know, in the U.S. that we are very vulnerable, and the sooner we get this rolled out, the better. Because the fact that what happened in today, you know, yesterday in Missouri, and you know, prior to that, it's real. You know, I watched it. So, if any of you have not seen the pictures, the hospital in Missouri, in that town, took a direct hit from the tornado, and the pictures are in the local newspaper. The place is just destroyed. How the patients didn't all get killed was tremendous, but they you know, the fire chief in that town was at his son's high school graduation, and his house is gone. You know, his house disappeared. So, you know, he was on the Today Show this morning. So it's really important for us to accelerate this as quickly as we can and have it done for summer. So I appreciate, Jim, all the work you're doing with the committee.
Yeah, just to answer your question too, is I don't believe that we're approaching this from the perspective that any one component is stopping another component. So as an example, if we got to the next regional council meeting and we had the infrastructure of the plan in place and we're waiting for, let's say, 2 counties to provide their strike team information, I would think, and again, I'm speaking without the benefit of the other committee members here, but I think we would move forward to actually implement the plan and then just add these counties as they became available or as revisions occurred. So.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you. Anything from the membership committee? All right, QI committee, Jimmy, back to you.
I was actually out of town for that meeting and they didn't send anything specific.
All right.
So.
GPO committee, finance committee, I'll give that report. We're continuing to discuss with Mohawk Hospital Equipment the renewal of the GPO, and they did counter to the offer we sent, an offer that is very close to acceptable to us. We will be sending one letter back to them about finalizing the agreement, and we would expect that we have the GPO agreement in place either by the June meeting, or at least we have the final terms of that agreement in place that would increase the value to the region. Our purchasing volume was $3,600 this month, a little bit down over the previous months, but continue to encourage people to get involved with the GPO and take advantage of that savings. All right, county reports, Albany. Jim's not here, so no report. Columbia, DJ's not here, anyone from Columbia? Green.
We had our EMS week reception to recognize the provider organizations in the county. We have 4 of our legislators there, including the guy who's head of the Public Safety Committee, who's very supportive of us, so we're very happy with that. As far as education is concerned, our AMT, the original and refresher, had over 30 people test out and they all passed. So we're very happy with the 100% graduation rate on that. We just also had our CFR test that came out with the results still hanging. We have an EMTB course going on in Baltimore right now. It's an add-on at the end of the year. But with the arrangements with the Baltimore, they agreed to cover any losses that we had in providing that course. So that's in progress. And we have enough people there, we believe that we probably will not have to ask them for any money to help out with that course. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Rensselaer County. Kevin's not here. We got a report from Rensselaer. All right, Saratoga. Kevin's not here. Schenectady.
We didn't actually meet because we had our EMS reception also during EMS week, the awards reception. That represents our outstanding providers and agencies.
Thank you. And I was remiss in my opening not wishing everyone the best on EMS week. Certainly thanking the folks that held EMS week events. Outstanding 220 people for the Albany Med EMS Education Day. So on behalf of the council, Mike, if you would express our thank you to everyone on your team that helped put that together. Obviously, St. Peter's had a EMS day. I think now the day at Northeast Health, I think the reception was canceled as being rescheduled, but I'm sure a number of the other hospitals did things as well. So thank you for that. And also, I guess, remiss in not just just mentioning that we should all hold having our thoughts and prayers to providers in Joplin, Missouri, who now are, as we sit here, going through the closest thing to health that they possibly could as they try and recover from that tremendous storm. I guess it took out 2 fire stations completely, 1 hospital, as well as whole neighborhoods evacuated. So, okay, on new business, we have a couple of items, on old business as well. Under new business, we'd like to bring a motion to the floor, a seconded motion from upstairs that has to do with internet connectivity for Tim Maraboli. The current status of the internet service we have in this building allows Tim to access email for his official Remo email only when he is in the office. We would like Tim to have 24-hour connectivity to email so that in situations, both business emergencies as well as region or area-wide emergencies, Tim can receive his email and send email as the executive director. So the seconded motion is to authorize up to $70 per month for Tim to be able to either have his current personal device reconfigured to accept the Remo email, or to purchase, or if necessary, get an alternate device. So $70 per month for the executive director to have connectivity to the Remo email when he is not present in the office. Yes?
I think we also said that if it could be done for 0 or less, that would
Yes,
be...
Tim is exploring options perhaps that will allow his current data plan to be amended at lower cost. Yes.
Aren't we web-based? Can't we get can't you check your internet from the web? Or check your emails from the web? I could be wrong, but I thought.
I haven't been able to. I haven't been able to get on the
That's-
Outlook from
just,
outside.
Yeah, there's just a connect, call Time Warner, and they'll tell you how to do
Yeah.
it. You literally can check that from any.
It is possible, what we're hoping to do is that it can be going directly to Tim's hand. He is going to work with our IT guy on finding the lowest cost solution to this challenge. Any other questions or discussion on this motion? All right, then, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? One opposed. Any abstentions? One abstention. Oh, we have 2 noes, and so the motion does carry. No abstentions. Okay. The next item is our IT contract with PRM. PR, moving on to, this is old business. Well, first, is there any other new business? Okay. Then we're moving to old business. We have a contract with PRM, which is the data, many of you know Robbie McHugh, who is the IT person who has programmed the work on remoals.org for the Signal site. There are a number of things that are underway in working with Robbie. Number one, we need to build out some additional features on that site because the change in the credentialing process for ALS providers that has been made is such that agencies, ALS coordinators need to be able to access and enter data and work on that site. There is an amount of programming that has been, is necessary for us to accomplish that. We received a proposal from PRM for 80 to 100 hours of work at a price of $50 an hour. Upstairs, we reviewed that proposal, and as a seconded motion, the executive committee passed the following. Rather than do it on an hourly basis, we wanted to do it at one price. And so the seconded motion coming down from upstairs would be for the PRM to produce a customized product with the deliverables that were specified by the REMAC, which have been established in writing, to do all the customizations for a price of $4,500, which is equal to the rate of 90 hours at $50 an hour. If the project is completed within 30 days or whichever time the executive director agrees to, including debugging, the contractor would receive a 15% bonus. If the project is completed after 30 days after the due date, the contractor is penalized 5% for each month delayed. And so that's the proposal. So to take what they were going to do as an hourly project with no cap on the number of hours, but an estimated amount of 80 to 100, assign it the rate of 90 hours, pay them an additional fee if they finish it on time, deduct from it if they do not finish it on time. And so that's a seconded motion that's coming down from the executive committee. I don't know, Tim or Dr. Daly, if you have any comments you want to make on the specifics of the programming that's got to happen? Or?
The only thing I could add is, based on the decision of the REMAC at the either March or April meeting to reformat the regional credentialing process, what that did is necessitated a reprogramming of Remo ALS. Our IT man, Robbie McHugh, or his partner, Peter, will have to reprogram that system to allow agency by agency access to that. So those designees from those agencies can log on to Remo ALS, update and maintain their credentialing agency provider files, so on and so forth. He estimates it'll take a certain number of hours to accomplish that task. That was part one of this proposal.
So is there any questions or discussion on the proposal?
Is there an issue with funds for that, like from budgeted amounts, or do we set aside that?
The money in the board restricted funds more than supports this initiative. And that's the money you pay into as an agency or your ALS call.
Yes.
Are we limited to one organization providing the proposal?
The agency that provided the proposal also has the intellectual property rights to the software. So at this time, we are.
Just so you know, the history behind the product is this, what RenoALS.com is more from actually was originally a student project for some RPI students to develop a way to track CME documentation. That started 04, 05. And at this point, what it's doing is collecting information on advanced life support calls, collecting information on controlled substance utilization throughout this region, collecting a significant amount of cardiac arrest data, and then getting that prepared for integration into a national database, the CARES database I've talked about here before. Quite frankly, they've grown us a pretty good product. And this is working pretty successfully for our providers. At this point, there's been a request from some agencies that the docs have agreed to that we should decentralize some of the credentialing, and that's what most of these upgrades are doing. But the product itself, I think, has grown quite well.
There is a separate discussion that I'll just mention now as part of the discussion as to the long-term support for this product. And we're about to enter into negotiations with PRM for, number one, what their fee will be to continue maintaining our web presence and the ALS site. They've submitted a bid to us. In addition, it's important for us to establish with them the long-term security of us, since they have the intellectual property rights to this, that this be something that's accessible to us in perpetuity. Should this company move into some other venture and no longer be interested in doing this, or should these guys get jobs doing something else, we have to be sure that this is not a proprietary product that only resides with them. So part of those negotiations will be establishing our rights to this for the future, so that is, as Mike said, it grew out of the student project, but now we have an EMS system that depends on this being there. So not only do we want to pay for the upgrade of it, but also whatever appropriate rights can be granted to us to permanently use this. So that'll be part of a second conversation that'll begin at the negotiations. Tim will be starting with them going forward to make that permanent. So is there any other questions or discussion?
Why are we paying them 15% on their drug on a timely basis? I mean, we've already said that we want them to do 2 days, and if they give it to us less, they told us how many hours it's going to take. Why are we giving them 15% if they give it to us on the time that they told us they would?
Their proposal was for an open-ended amount of time. So they had estimated as much as 100 hours, but no cap. So we want to convert that into a limited amount of money for them to take a risk. But part of taking the risk is that we can pay them a little bit more for on-time performance and penalize them for late performance, which is relatively common when using contractors in the IT field. And if you add up the bonus, you actually come out still at the same rate as that 100 hours they were proposing.
If
So
they did it for 100 hours, it'd be 5,000, and the bonus would be 675. So you're paying the 45, 50, okay. It's real close.
any other questions or discussion?
Have we asked any other organizations that provide this type of computer work if they're interested and if they could come up with something? So we just aren't held hostage by one company. I don't think we're being held hostage right now, but just in case our negotiations aren't fruitful, that we started looking or have other options other than just this one company.
Your option is to start, well, this is a custom-built system for us.
I understand.
That means starting from scratch and building another system for tens of thousands of dollars. So that option is out there, but what we want to do is enter into a long-term agreement that gives us some of the rights to this going forward. But really, there is no, the other alternatives would all be would be very, very expensive to begin anew. This is the way it was developed from the beginning, and so we have to work to earn some rights to it for the future as we continue to modify it for the things we need to do right now.
I'd just throw it out. I mean, I think it makes total sense to move forward with this at this time. Obviously, you're holding the implementation of the protocol in conjunction with this. It's a system that works. I don't think we could get that service for less money. And, depending upon the information that comes back with Tim when they start to negotiate this, if you're suggesting that maybe we get an RFP for next year to develop a product like this, it probably makes sense. But I think we're somewhat captive to the fact that we try and do things first, and we're usually inventing the wheel as opposed to buying the tire. So I think it makes sense.
That's a good way of saying it, Jim. We do have a number of other regions that are interested in seeing if they can join onto this. So yeah, we are the first ones to do this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it spread to other regions in the near future. We actually had Tim and myself and Steve, was anyone else with us? It was just me and Steve, right? Met with Mountain Lakes and Arams to talk about the signal system, just to tell them about the signal system, and also the recorded phone service that we have for getting medical direction. Because both of those regions don't have those types of features, and they're very interested in perhaps partnering with us in some way in doing this. So very, very good discussion. Any other questions or discussion? If not, we can call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the proposal to contract for the completion of the signal the CME credentialing systems carries. The next thing that I don't think is coming down as a vote, but comes down as a discussion we had upstairs that has to do with the modems that were purchased under a grant for the purpose of putting the life packs in electronic communication with the hospital emergency departments. When the grant was obtained and the modems were issued to the agencies under the grant, there was a one-year agreement that Remo would pay the cost under the grant of the agencies having the modems, and then after 1 year, the agencies would pick up the monthly charge for those modems that they use to transmit the data for the STEMIs project to the hospitals. Some of those agencies came online in January of 2010 and are past their 1 year date. Others are coming up now. A number of these agencies, have received letters from the region and repeated more than one letter and a phone call asking them to change over the service to their agency and begin paying, since the grant is now running out and now Remo is paying out of Remo funds for those modems. We had a discussion of this upstairs at the executive committee, and the decision was that in the case of these agencies, we were going to do a number of things. Number one, a letter will be sent to both the executive and the medical director notifying these agencies that if they are overdue in converting this over, and now Remo is subsidizing their ALS program and they need to make the conversion. If it does not happen within 60 days, the charges will be billed out to them as an addition to their signal fee with a 20% handling charge, as well as a retroactive collection for their overdue months. So if you were up last January, we're going to collect from you, we're going to add to your signal fee the monthly modem charge from January, February, March, April. That if people do convert with this effort within 60 days, they would not be billed a retroactive portion and they would just pick it up going forward. They'll be notified of this by certified letter by Tim and by a phone call following up. The feeling was that this is a very important program, and turning off people's modems is not necessarily a desirable outcome, since the MAC and Dr. Daly worked very hard to establish what is a groundbreaking program in our region. To turn it off because people didn't want to pay their bill doesn't accomplish the goal, but to have the agencies pick up the cost that they signed on for, saying they would pick up, is a responsible way to go. So we're going to go the extra mile, and Tim's going to put the extra work in to make these agencies aware in case they didn't open the mail or didn't respond to the voicemail. There are about 16 agencies right now that this is an issue with. So that's where we're going. Dr. Daly.
The other question is how much of this is actually waiting on Verizon to do switches and so forth, or where some of this may sit in municipal purchasing office too. So we need to be careful as we tread. And I think we're, having this out in front of us, in my brief conversations with some of the agencies listed on here, many of them have already started down the process of making sure this change occurs. So.
Very important distinction, and perhaps, Tim, we should build it into our communication that agencies that are in the process, but it will take some time, need to notify you and let them know it's in the process so we know that they're moving along. Dr. Daly, thank you. That's a very good point.
Will there be an ultimate cutoff date? I mean, we could ask them for 60 days, 90 days, 120 days.
What are the
time to say,
I think the cutoff will be more likely to come from the MAC to the agency's ability to continue to participate as an advanced life support unit in the region, rather than us turning the modem off. I don't want our patients to suffer because what may be multiple different factors. But that's something that would be picked up at the region, and an agency may come to us with a reasonable idea, and they may have some very strange concepts in terms of why they don't want to transmit EKG. But then again, one agency may say, we don't want to continue to have this modem available to us because we actually just signed a deal for a bunch of monitors made by another company. There's a lot of different possibilities here. I think we need to hear what those are. But the cardiologists in the region at the 3 interventional centers have been clear. They want to see these EKGs. We went out and we got $100,000 from the Ferrioli Foundation very generously to support this around the region, and made a significant investment for every agency. And the amount of actual cost at $100 a unit per year isn't particularly extravagant. Commercials are stepping up and able to do it, and we'll certainly help people figure out how to get there. But if the reasoning is academic, we'll get there too. So in terms of a shut off the modem and say you don't have a modem anymore, sure. But it's going to be a lot more than just shutting off the modem.
One other thing, and Jeff, this is old. Most of these agencies became due in January of this year. As they accepted their modems a year ago in January, they all signed a letter agreeing to accept or roll over the accounts to their agencies after a year. We've pretty much been eating the cost of the bill since this past January. Every agency received several emails. They all received a phone call, and they all received 2 hard mailings advising them that, come on guys, you have to take this. We can't keep paying forever. So this is just a culmination of that.
Any other questions?
be inappropriate to ask who hasn't paid? Or do you want to not go down that road?
Okay.
Okay.
I think what we've added to this is, number one, that Tim is going to be contacting the medical directors, Dr. Daly suggested, because the medical directors ought to be, if there's a bureaucratic problem within the agency, the medical directors are certainly going to know about, want to know that the ALS status is somewhat in jeopardy. And I think that it's a good point that some of these may be in process. But if anyone is interested in, if their agency is one of these, I think we could let them know. So you can go back and check with your agency to make sure this got done. But when the letters are sent, there may be a list in the future, a public list, once these get sent. That's a point, but not.
They're on the bill.
I don't think we're at that point today, though, right? Putting out a list. Is there any other new business for tonight?
Just at the next meeting, the group involved with the investments, I'd like to see some report. We don't have anything shown here for gains or losses.
Okay.
I'm confused. And I'd like to see it go back, not a snapshot, but probably 6 to 12 months back to see how we're doing, to include also the expenses involved and loss and gains, something we can all understand.
I think that is.
We're supposed to be getting reports along, and I don't want to let the summer go by without seeing
No, I think
something.
that's good. The investment committee has been getting regular reports from RBC. Is it RBC, the right initial? RBC Investment Portfolio, and I think it would be very appropriate for us to, at the June meeting, give a report to the council along those lines. So thank you for the suggestion. Is there any other new business? Rich?
Item before, or whatever will be under, I'm not quite sure. EMS awards, they're supposed to be endorsed by the regional council, are due to the state by June 1st, which is next week. Have we heard from our award committee?
Yes, they came in today. The 3 members submitted their nominations. Despite my attempt to have them reach a consensus, they all selected different organizations. I have them upstairs, so I'll hammer that out with them over the next couple days, so that makes it to DOH by June 1. Yeah, it was my hope to have those down here to present tonight to the council. There were several that they were agreed upon. There were a couple others that they're going to need to go back and hash out, but I'll knock that out with them over the next day or two.
Is it appropriate to talk about the ones they agreed upon, or do you think this needs to be done as a whole package?
I would just prefer to, do it as a whole package. I'm not sure if it's premature yet or not, because basically it's up to them to make that decision, and I would defer to them.
My concern, I'm not faulting Kim, I'm faulting our subcommittee, is it's supposed to be the regional council's award. And if we're not voting on it tonight, when would we be voting on it?
Well,
Endorsing it. They should be reporting back to us as any other subcommittee.
and we should have been more clear in the charge to that committee about the deadline being for them to have it to us in order to be ready for tonight. Should this be something that once Tim receives, he holds the executive
I'll
committee?
send it to everybody. I'll send it to the council.
Or to the council for?
Yeah.
I think that would be appropriate, yeah.
Okay.
In the absence of a public meeting.
So in the absence of a public meeting, Tim will send around the award nominations to the council after received and prior to June 1st. Okay. Thank you, Rich.
Steve?
Yeah.
Just want to mention to everyone, the state has passed multiple policy statements indicating that all ambulances, ALS fly cars, and EASEs need to be clearly identified on 3 sides with state certified stickers. This has come as it became an issue. We discovered again after the snowstorm when ambulances were sent downstate. Any ambulances, fly cars, EASVs are in need of logos, please, the state certified stickers. Let Joe or I know. We've been instructed to start writing them if they're not labeled correctly.
Okay. Is that something, Tim, that we should put out in a bulletin from you to agencies, or?
I can.
Put it out, right?
They put out a policy a year ago. They put out the policy about the surveillance of such over a year ago. It came to light again this past December, January, whenever the snowstorm was, when the ambulances went down in the city. I'm just throwing it out there
Thank
as
you. Gary, appreciate that. Thank you. Everyone go out, go home and check.
I was gonna say, if anyone needs to know how to remove a label and put them back on, talk to the sheriff's department.
What county? Is there any other new business? Dan?
I was over at the EMS Memorial last Wednesday. It was beautiful. The weather was terrible, as it frequently is. But I'm not sure what the right weather would be. 3 more names were added to the Tree of Life Memorial. Just up in the plaza. If you haven't been to the plaza, go. It's beautiful. Leroy Kemp, Karen Han, and Paul Bazinet were the 3 names this year. And the speakers were eloquent, appropriate, and for a change, concise. So they did a very nice job. They did a very nice job. But as we were standing there, a few of us from the region, we were thinking that it would be nice the agencies of the region to recognize the agencies that have come to visit us. And if there were some folks that wanted to get together to come up with a plan for what we could do to all of these guests that are coming into the plaza every year during the EMS week, I think it would be something that would be appreciated by the folks that have taken a long trip to get here. And yes, it's going to be something that we're going to have to do for our fellow EMS providers every year. But I think it's an honor for us to have this memorial here in Albany. So I am doing what I can to not offer to chair this because I don't want to. I think there are other people here that do a much better job at that than I. But I'd like to put the thought out so people could begin to consider participating. Because I think it would be very nice for us to do to continue the day, increase the camaraderie, and allow people a little bit more from the experience of coming to Albany to all celebrate life together for what we all do for EMS.
In that vein, our legislature in Green County is raising funds for a county, a similar 3 stone, 1 for each service, and a flag plaza by our dispatch center. When that gets done, we'll have a dedication for it.
That's great. That's good. Dr. Daly, thank you for an excellent suggestion. We've got 11 months to make that plan a reality, figure out how to do it. But I think it's a nice idea. There are usually a good 200-300 people from around the state that come up for the EMS Memorial.
Don't forget to that first meeting, June 2nd. I'm sure we need to.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the chair has the ability to create another committee. I don't know if hospitality is the appropriate name, but, you know.
Well, perhaps the EMS Memorial Committee.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, why don't we, I'll work with Chairman Rinaldi to develop that plan, and we can, is there anyone that would be interested in chairing a committee of that sort at this time, or should we, we'll come back with that at a future time. Dr. Daly, you're not volunteering to chair.
I think committee chairman Sayers did well.
I see, bring it back.
You know, the last guy to mention it usually gets the job. All right. Thank you, Mike. A very good addition to tonight's discussion. Any other new business? All right. Motion for adjournment.
I so moved.
Second. Thank you very much.